Hello and welcome to this edition of The Current Report, our weekly roundup of what's happening in the world of digital media. I'm Damien Fowler. Well, it's November, and that means we can officially talk about Thanksgiving, which is fast approaching. And this year, online grocery data is, well, excuse the pun, having a moment on the menu. Retail media platforms that sell groceries are getting ever more sophisticated in the way they work with brands to find audiences using shopper data off their platforms. And by the way, almost a third of Americans polled say they shop for groceries online every month. And for marketers, that's a treasure trove of data. The latest example is Instacart, one of the largest apps in the space, which is working with brands like Beam, Suntory, and Nestle to help drive omnichannel campaigns across CTV, mobile, and display ahead of America's big celebration. For more on this story, go to thecurrent.com. And this may seem a little bit meta, but we're going to talk podcasts on this podcast, and specifically how generative AI is reshaping the world of podcasting. Last month, Spotify announced its voice generation tech to allow big-name podcasts to be translated into other languages in the voice of their hosts. Here's a little sample from a Spotify trailer showcasing the voice of the speaker in the original language, and then the AI translation into Spanish.
You don't have to be in show business, but what I've discovered is how fun it is to have the same trabajo y poder hablar de eso todo el tiempo.
And now advertisers are tapping into GenAI to create contextual audio ads for listeners. And to talk about why it's a good time to be a podcast listener, I'm joined now by our reporter Zach Wang, who wrote about the topic this week for The Current. Hi, Zach.
Hey, Damien. Thanks for having me.
Now, why are advertisers and tech companies so excited about this possibility?
Well, look, there's a variety of reasons that I've heard. One of the most apparent one is the speed at which campaigns are going to be ready in. We're talking minutes instead of days or even weeks. And then you've also got, the ability to make these ads contextual. So, for example, sport ads and sport podcasts. That's really going to reduce, a lot of that investment. Speaking of reduced investment in the future, you've also got ads that update dynamically, right? So, a marketer won't have to go in necessarily and do that, manually. So all podcasts will have the most up-to-date version of the ad.
Now, can you give us a sense of the scale of this opportunity?
Yeah, well, the digital audio market is definitely a growing one. Just in the US, some data points. 75% of US internet users are forecasted to listen to digital audio this year. The time they spend on the medium is more than than the time that they spend on either Netflix or YouTube. As you mentioned earlier, Spotify's announcement that they will start to use AI to translate some shows, that's going to open up more ad slots for very little effort. So, this is really a growing space.
As you point out, there's a ton of interest in this tech, but it surely doesn't come without challenges. What did you find out?
We're still early days. I mean, it hasn't been that long, right, since generative AI really kind of burst onto the scene. Obviously, jury's out on just how well these translated podcasts will kind of, will really appeal to listeners. So it's still a bit early days for that. And of course, as with many other applications of AI, you've got copyright and ownership issues. And, the burden is really going to be on big brands and advertisers here to make sure that they're prioritizing and keeping in mind and obviously following all applicable laws.
We do know that tech companies are already gearing up for this AI future. I'm wondering how they're trying to balance concerns with innovation.
Yeah, it's definitely it's easy to get swept up by the excitement, but at the end of the day, the emphasis really has to be on maintaining the quality, right, of the media. That's really what's at the end of the day is carrying the ads, and again, respecting the copyrights. This is I guess still a work in progress, but that's also a hugely important part in this and finding that balance. And also, to be honest, I mean, there's also an element here of asking yourself, when is it maybe even appropriate, right, to have AI? I mean, some of the marketers I spoke to, maybe it's not necessary to use AI all the time, right? And having that human touch helps keep podcasts sort of like a real and trusted medium, right? So there's obviously there's a balance here at play, and nobody has really figured it out yet, but there's definitely good progress being made.
And by the way, Zach, have you listened to any of these Spotify voice-generated translations? What do you think?
Yeah, I've actually I've had a listen recently. It's to the Spanish one. I would say it's not incredible, but at the same time it is kind of incredible. Like it feels a bit mechanic, but just the ability to hear that translation in real time, and I'm sure to a native speaker, there's going to be obviously some things that stick out, but I mean it's pretty incredible, to be honest.
Thanks so much, Zach, for those insights.
Thank you.
Next, here's our weekly roundup of what's making news across the internet. In business, Omnicom has agreed to buy the e-commerce shop Flywheel Digital for $835 million, according to a news release, its biggest acquisition ever. Flywheel services help top brands sell more goods across digital marketplaces like Amazon, Walmart, and Alibaba. Omnicom is betting that the addition of the company, along with its troves of transaction data, will boost its digital commerce and retail media offerings for its clients. And speaking of AI, President Biden signed a landmark executive order to create rules around generative AI. This is ahead of any legislation coming from lawmakers. The executive order attempts to establish new standards for AI safety and security, protects Americans' privacy, advances equity and civil rights, stands up for consumers, patients, and workers, all at the same time as promoting innovation and competition. Amongst other things, the order seeks to lessen the dangers of deep fakes that could swing elections or fool consumers. President Biden spoke about the importance of what he calls the most significant action any government has taken on AI.
This executive order is about protecting your fundamental rights to like privacy. Without safeguards, AI can put your privacy at greater risk. That's why I've called for new protections on your personal data. With this executive order, my administration is going to help develop leading-edge technology that make those protections as strong as possible.
During his address, the president called on Congress to develop further legislation around the technology. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said he hopes to have AI legislation ready in a matter of months. And that's it for this edition of The Current Report. For a deeper dive on all these stories and more, check out thecurrent.com. And of course, please like and subscribe on YouTube and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. We'll see you next week.